had seen the advantages of the free enterprise economy, also known as market economy, also known as unplanned, uncontrolled, or capitalist economy, and these are now the disadvantages or the demerits of that market system. If you are operating in such an economic system, what are the likely demerits? What do you suffer from as a result of its existence? We can see here that it leads to emergence of private monopolies and their evils. How do these private monopolies arise? We've seen that in the free enterprise economy, there is a freedom of choice. Producers and consumers have the freedom to choose what to produce and when to produce. And you find that since everybody is taking on production as the choice may be, some farms are inefficient, yet others are very efficient. How do we tell that a farm is efficient and another one is inefficient? Those whose prices cannot attract consumers in order to make them buy their commodities, we can conclude that they're the inefficient ones. But those whose prices can be afforded by the consumers, then we conclude that these are the farms which are inefficient. Usually efficient farms don't charge high prices because they have been able to organize their factors of production in the best way possible, and they have been able to incur the least cost of production. Hence, they are touching of relatively lower prices that give them an affordable profit. Yet for the inefficient farms, because they've been able to incur high expenses here and there, they want to compensate it by charging higher prices. But we know that according to demand, the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded by the consumer. Why? The consumer has limited income, he has unlimited wants, and for that matter, he has to use the limited income to satisfy what is priority or what is more needed. And if your prices are high, definitely he will not go in for your product, but will go in for the product of the other producer whose prices he can afford. So for that matter, those producers, individuals and firms, because of their freedom to operate in a free enterprise economy, inefficient ones are going to be outcompeted by the efficient ones. And those who remain, because others have gone out of business, they may operate like monopolies. A monopoly is a single producer of a good that has no close substitute or rival. So they are going to behave in that kind of way, that I am now the only producer of such a commodity in my economy. Whether they want it or not, they will have to buy from me, as there are no other alternatives and there are no other competitors. I have not competed them. So what do? That's why we say that there is the emergence of private monopolies with their efforts. These private monopolies are not in the interest of the consumer. They are monopolizing the market, so they are going to exploit the consumer. How are consumers exploited? They are going to be charged very high prices. Now is the time for our monopolies who has outcompeted all other producers of a similar commodity to charge high prices and enjoy maximum profit. So consumers who have a limited income and they have unlimited needs are going to be exploited through paying high prices for the commodities that are veiled by these monopolies. Not only that, but there will be artificial shortages. In order to sell at high prices, these monopolies tend to create artificial shortages. They don't supply according to demand. No, they try to create that shortage in order to be able to explain or justify the high prices they are charging. So they say that our goods are not there. That is why we are also charging a high price. But we know that in actual fact, they are doing it intentionally because they know they're the only ones in the market, and they have the freedom to charge as much as they want. So that becomes a disadvantage of allowing people to operate freely in a free enterprise economy and outcompeting others who are inefficient. Then we have leading to resource exhaustion because of competition. We have seen in the features that this economic system allows many participants in the production of resources, in the production of goods and services. And these goods and services use the resources. We saw you in the using the PPF or in the explanation of the major economic problems of scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost, that resources are limited. But now here you are as an economy, allowing as many people to tap those resources as much as they want, without any government control, without any government regulation, without an administrator telling the producers what to do and when to stop using such and such a resource. So in the final analysis, resources are going to be depleted. Some of these resources are not renewable. The moment they are used, they are over, and there will be nothing for the future generation, which is bad. People have to have a continuity in the supply of goods and services within the economy. But because of the operation of the free enterprise economy with no or very limited government interference, usually resources are overused and there is nothing that is saved for the future generation. Then we see that it leads to income and wealth inequalities. How does this one arise? Not everybody owns resources. Not everybody has land. Okay, we may be having our labor, but labor is also categorized in different ways. You may be skilled, you may be semi-skilled, or you may be unskilled. So which category of labor is vital for production? So you find that if you don't possess the required resources in the production process, you are going to be remain poor. Because you are lacking the resources. You want to produce, but you don't have land. And those people who have the freedom of owning the resources, they go ahead and produce and become more and more wealthy. Why? Because there is no government intervention in the ownership of resources. Government is not going to demarcate that such and such an area is for such and such a class of people. No way. It is a free enterprise economy. Let people do whatever they want. And it is telling the people are telling the government, please leave us alone. Leave us what? Leave us alone so that we are able to do whatever we want economically. So in such instances where government is not regulating and controlling the ownership and allocation of resources, usually income and wealth inequalities arise in the society, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and that gap is not good for economic growth and development when it is in extremes of very wide. Then it leads to resource wastage, and this one, we are wasting resources due to duplication. People have the right, they are free to choose which commodity to produce, and you may find 10 people in the same locality producing the same product for the same consumers. That's where the wastage of resources comes in. They are duplicating. Why don't you leave just 2 people to produce that commodity, and for you, you take on another? But since they are free to choose what to produce, government should not interfere. They have their own resources, so they go ahead and duplicate. And you find that everybody is selling the same commodity, and in the long run, customers are not there. And resources are scarce, but now this system allows for their wastage, as it is allowing as many people as possible to engage in production and duplicate. That is not good in an economy where we have limited resources and so many ones which have been satisfied with those resources. Then leads to misallocation of resources. Leads to misallocation of resources. Because resources go where they are highly paid for. And for that matter, the rich are the ones who have the ability to pay higher prices. And in that way, it will only be goods for the rich that will be produced, because they are the ones which command a higher price, and they are going to be giving high profits to the producer. So that will be a misallocation of resources. We also need goods for the poor and the low-income earners, or even the medium-income earners. But nobody would like to supply those goods because they are not profitable. They don't command a high price. So in a free enterprise economy, there is a high degree of resource allocation, and resources always move to the production of luxuries or commodities or products which are demanded by the rich consumers. Then it ignores the provision of essential goods because they are not profitable. essential goods like water, which command low price or which don't have that kind of profitability, usually they are left out. And we know that there is no government interference. Let people produce what they want, and you find that if they have that kind of freedom, whatever is essential and is not profitable will not be provided, and there will be suffering. Some of the needs of the people will never be satisfied, which is not good. Then leads to unemployment of people and resources. How? Because firms get outcompeted. And we find that in a capitalist economy, they want a high level of output, they want a high level of efficiency, and this can be obtained when you are using machines. So machines replace labor in the production process. And once a machine comes in, it can do the work of as many people as possible. So some people will be laid off from employment and become unemployed. And we know that unemployment means no income. No income means no food. No food means starvation, and starvation may lead to death. So we find that there may be a lot of suffering in a free enterprise economy where production now is undertaken by machines and people are left out with no incomes, yet they have needs that they need to satisfy if they get money. We are in a monetary economy. Things are no longer, let's say, in barter exchange. No way. You need money to buy whatever you cannot produce for yourself. And if you are not employed, there will be no money, and you cannot be able to satisfy your immediate or even the basic needs of life. Then it results into environmental degradation through pollution, clearing of the environment to set up industries, people are displaced and that kind of thing. So all that is suffering, and we get social costs. You build an industry in an area where people, or which is residential, because you are free to set your industry anywhere. We are in a free enterprise economy where the choice is yours. You make your own economic decision. So you find that usually you may pollute the area and people get sick, the water is polluted, the atmosphere is polluted. If at all you are producing cigarettes, the fumes come out, and you find out people, though they are not smokers, but they are going to be getting lung cancer out of that. So that is a social cost. They need to medicate themselves, not because it was out of their own bringing, but because of your industry being there and you having the freedom to do what you want with the government not interfering in your decisions. The environment gets degraded, trees are cut down to set up industries, to set up all other kinds of economic activities, and we may be crying that there is no rain and it is a dry spell taking a long period of time, but we are forgetting that you are in a market economy where people are free to destroy the environment and set up their economic activities. So that one is also another demerit or disadvantage of a free enterprise economy. So that is all about the free enterprise economy market system. Let's now have a look at the next one, which is planned, controlled, socialist, and maybe centrally operated economy. Planned, also known as command, controlled, socialist, or centrally planned economy. So this is an economic system where resources or the means of production are owned and controlled by the state or the government or a centrally appointed body. Resources, means of production, and everything is under government control. It is under the state government or centrally appointed organization. Planned, controlled, or socialist economy is an economic system where the ownership, allocation, and administration of wealth and resources is under the state, government, or centrally appointed organization. Whereas we saw that under the market or capitalist economy, resources are owned by individuals and the private sector, and the government has limited or no control over the allocation, administration, and ownership of resources. But here it is the reverse. And it has the following characteristics or features as we are going to enumerate them. Features. Characteristics, also known as traits of planned economy. Planned economy. Features, characteristics, traits of a planned economy. Feature number one is that there is extensive planning. There is extensive planning. So everything that has to be undertaken in that economy has to be planned prior to being done. And who does this planning? It is the Central Planning Authority, by the Central Planning Authority. So if you are talking about a socialist economy, then they should know that if there is extensive planning by the Central Planning Authority, everything has to be going through this authority before it is accepted. Then there is provision. Provision for people's welfare. There is provision for people's welfare, meaning that it does not leave people to go without certain goods and services, as we have seen in the socialist economy, that those who have resources get richer and can influence the production of the goods they want. No, here we find that people's welfare is promoted, and simply because it is not profit-oriented. It is not profit-oriented. So that is a feature of socialist economy. People's welfare, people get those goods which are satisfactory for their well-being, where we find that the merit goods are going to be there because government control will be around, whereas in the other capitalist economy, there may be production of so many demerit goods because they're the ones which attract a high profit, and the consumers are free to consume whatever they want, whether they are merit or demerit goods. Then there is no competition in production. No competition in production. No competition in production. No competition in production. So I have already seen that government appoints a central planning authority, and this one will choose what to produce for the economy. And it's only the government which is going to be producing, so there are no competitors allowed, as they don't have that freedom. That freedom was only in the capitalist economy. Here it is now government which is having the monopoly over the production of the goods. When we come to prices, prices are controlled by the government. Prices are controlled by the government, and this may be either maximum price or minimum price. So government can set a price which is benefiting either the consumers. So if it is a maximum price, it benefits consumers, yet a minimum price benefits producers. Benefits producers. These are going to be examined further as we go ahead in price theory. But we find that government has that role in a planned economy to set the prices. Why? Because it's interested in the welfare of the people. It's not interested in making profits. So the prices are fair, so that whoever is producing, you are able to continue in production. You are not going to be outcompeted. That's why minimum prices are set, and the consumers are going to be exploited, like we saw in the capitalist economy. So maximum prices are usually lower prices, which are affordable by everybody, so that they can access the essential or basics of life. Then government provides mostly the essential goods. Government provides mostly all the essential goods. All the essential goods. And these essential goods, we have already defined the types of goods, so I think now you know what is essential and what is not essential. We can call them essential or necessities, and these are usually water, roads, and so on. These are provided by the government in a planned or socialist economy. Then there are no private investors. No private investors. No private investors are allowed. We know that the private investors are profit motivated, and they will be bringing about exploitation, and we find that these investments, private investors, are not allowed, and we find that it's only public investments. Public investments which are allowed. So those are the common features, those are the common characteristics of planned economy. There is extensive planning by the central planning body. Everything has to be categorically analyzed and systematically put on paper, so that you can have a direction of where to go in the allocation and production of goods and services. there is provision for people's welfare because it's not profit-oriented. People are going to enjoy a maximum standard of living. No competition in production, for that matter. There is no overexploitation of resources, as we shall see, and prices are controlled by the government to benefit both the producers and the consumers. Provides mostly essential commodities or necessities so that people cannot do without them because they are poor, and there's no private investors are allowed. It's only the public investments which are carried out in such an economy. So what advantages are there? What advantages are there? So let's look at the advantages or merits which arise out of operating in planned economy or socialist economy. We find that it eliminates this kind of economy, eliminates the consumption of demerit goods, consumption of demerit or harmful goods, since government does not allow for their production. Government is the one which decides which commodities are going to be produced. Therefore, if it knows that it is there to cater for the proper welfare of the consumers, and the demerit goods usually are going to be detrimental to the welfare of the people, so these goods will never see themselves on the shelves in the market. So that is very good, and we find that undesirable or demerit goods are not there in a socialist economy. Then it eliminates wasteful competition and duplication. Eliminates wasteful competition and duplication. Since it is government which is making the decision of what to produce, it will not duplicate. The moment it knows that I'm producing coffee and maybe I'm producing soap, I'm producing sugar for the entire economy, it will be the only one producing, or maybe through its agencies which are centrally appointed, and you find that there will be no other competitors. So that kind of wasteful competition, which wastes resources and it duplicates, bringing the same goods on the market when already there is enough of them, that one is avoided. Like we saw in the capitalist economy, they waste a lot of resources, they duplicate a lot, but in this one, that one, the duplication is not there. Then it encourages resource, no, oh, discourages, not encourages. You can say reduces consumer exploitation. We have just hinted about consumer exploitation under the capitalistic economic system, where consumers are exploited by the profit-hungry producers who tend to become monopolists, and they create artificial shortages, hence charging higher prices. But we find that here, government has to plan and make sure that it has an adequate supply of the commodities needed by the consumers, and they have to be sold at fair prices because there is government control over the prices, so consumers are not exorbitantly exploited as the case looks in the capitalist economy. Then it encourages equal distribution of income, encourages equality in the distribution of income and wealth, in the distribution of income and wealth. And this is because not any one particular individual has access to private or personal resources. All resources belong to the government, and you find that it's the one which is going to be using them or harnessing them for the production of goods it deems vital to the society or to mankind. So there will be no rich person, as we saw that those who own more resources are going to produce more goods, get more income, and grow more rich and wealthy. No, this one is not there. Why? As an individual, you don't own any resources. All resources are publicly owned. Everything belongs to the public. That's why we studied the public goods and the private goods. Here, everything is used by everybody with no exclusion, and they are used in their totality. Why? Because they are provided by the government for the benefit of each and everybody. So it encourages equality in the distribution of incomes and wealth, because it is the sole producer, the sole owner of the resources, and will distribute out the products accordingly or equally among its population. Then it creates more employment. Creates more employment opportunities. Creates more employment opportunities. Why? This is because there is no allowance for monopolies to emerge. There is no that kind of consideration that firms are going to go out compete each other. No, government is the only producer, and for that matter, it will not allow inefficient firms to close. Instead, it will support them by giving them whatever is not available, so that they continue producing goods and services for the people. Unlike the case in a capitalist economy, where government does not interfere and firms are outcompeted, people are laid off, and machines come in and replace the human being in the production of goods and services. Then economies are relatively stable economically, politically, because there is no rivalry. Ensures adequate provision of public or goods of merit. It allows external costs analysis, because you have to consider what and how to produce, and that is not going to be at the detriment of society. And it uses this monopoly power in the interest of the public, but not getting profit. So it can monopolize the provision of defense, it can monopolize the security, it can monopolize the education, but everything is for the benefit of the people. So economies are relatively stable. Economies which are under socialism are relatively. Why do we use the word relatively? Because we are comparing with the capitalists. So these ones are relatively stable, and that stability is both in the economic sphere Economically, their prices are stable because government can regulate or control them, and even politically, because nobody is yearning to be richer than the other, there is no rivalry. So politically and economically, these economies are usually stable. Economically, government is regulating the prices, so if the prices are very high, then they can always be brought down. If they are very low, government can rejuvenate them and bring them up to a desired level, hence avoiding inflation and deflation. So we can avoid inflation and deflation in the economy. So because government is there to make sure that prices are reasonably affordable for the people to have good welfare, since it is also known as a welfare economy.